Hello and welcome to another video. I'm Maz and today I'm in Patchway. And in today's video I'll be trying out this Jaguar XJS 4 litre. This car was kindly lent to me by its owner, and this is probably my first time trying a Jaguar from this time period. So a quick overview: the Jaguar XJS was launched in 1975, shortly after the discontinuation of the Jaguar E-Type. Now it's not a direct successor, as the XJS is based on the XJ platform and is more Grand Tourer than sports car, and was in production for about 21 years from 1975 to 1996, eventually being replaced by the XK8. The XJS came in 3 phases: the Series 1, the Series 2 and the Series 3. This particular one is a Series 3. Interestingly, the Series 3 was not supposed to happen. It was only there as a stopgap until the replacement was ready. There was a replacement being made, the XJ41, but then Ford, who just purchased Jaguar, have shelved that project, and then Aston Martin picked it up to become the DB7. And finally, in 1996, the XK8 finally replaced the XJS. Now, I mentioned this car was launched in 1975. It originally came with a 5.3 litre V12, right when the oil crisis was a thing. And in 1987, the straight 6 option finally came in, a 3.7, but in 1990 it was replaced by the 4 litre, originally known as an AJ6, but this 95 model comes with an AJ16. So here is the Jaguar XJS. This is a Series 3, denoted by this updated lower bumper. The earlier cars would have black bumpers, but on this later one they are color-coded. These fog lights are actually aftermarket. Here is the Jaguar emblem. Not only does it tell you the manufacturer, but also the engine underneath. This particular car has the single headlight unit. On US cars you get 2 circles, and it's very common to see those 2 circles on UK cars as well as a retrofit. Coming to the side, these wheels came from the XJ40. This particular car has dark green calipers, and I also like this little design stripe that goes along the side. The side profile is more 1970s and 1990s, and interestingly, on this Series 3 the window glass extends all the way here as opposed to there. But that being said, from the inside it is exactly the same. The designer, Malcolm Sayer, added these buttresses onto the back as a form of aerodynamics. Coming to the back, once again you got the 90s bumpers, somewhat linking to the XJ40, and I also like the twin exit exhausts, one on each side. And this Series 3 car has the updated tail lights which extend into the boot. And yes, the period correct extendable aerial. Coming to the back, unfortunately it's not a hatchback like on the F-Type, but a traditional saloon. But that being said, the opening is absolutely massive, and the boot also goes very deep as well. This was also the time when Jaguar would put the space saver spare wheel in this sort of section here, and the battery in this section here. I mean, you can easily tell what's inside these sections, and this is how much space you get. Now coming inside, this car is a 2+2, but those back seats look far too tiny for me to attempt. Here's what the door looks like: very thin door cards, and of course chrome door handles. And one thing I really like is that the seat adjuster is in this sort of like window section here, with only this part blanked out. And of course wood. And of course there's that flyaway handbrake. Luckily this car's already in park, so it's already down, but to operate it you do that, and then to turn it off you do this. But then if you put it back on and then you let go, it goes back into place. So in other words, you have no idea whether or not this car has its handbrake on or off. Now coming inside, in here you're completely surrounded by dome lights. So there's dome lights on the sun visors, dome lights down here, and there's even a dome light over by the passenger side of the dash. And once again the wood theme really continues here. So here's my point of view. The steering wheel, like I said, has wood texture, and you get this very massive center boss. This was from a time when airbags were in massive housings, and this Series 3 car was one of the first Jaguars to have the speedo go in odd 10, so 10, 30, 50 rather than 0, 20, 40, 60. The benefit of that is 30, your residential speed limit, and 70, the national speed limit on the motorway, are both marked. And if we're being really pedantic, in modern Jaguars the rev counter and the speedo are actually the other way round. This car uses a 5-speed ZF automatic, and instead of having window switches on the door, you get window switches down here on the center console. So if you want, you can just lower or raise the other person's windows. And cruise control is also down here. And the benefits of the Ford ownership means that cup holders are almost guaranteed in this car. Unfortunately, there is no glove box in this car. But that being said, you do get storage here. Also, there's a nice leaper on the headrest. And of course there's lots of bolsters on them as well. And there's even carpeting on the lower part of the door card. As I mentioned, there's a light here, a light there, and lights on the sun visors. Interestingly, the sun visors have a slight extension here, and even back then you had the dressing room style lights on each side. Oh, and yes, they're carpeted as well. This particular car uses a CD player, and of course this was from a time when single zone climate controls were a thing. Here's the obligatory analog clock and the 5-speed automatic gearbox. So that's the exterior and interior done now, so let's see what this car is like to drive. Oh, and yes, this is what the key looks like. Looks exactly like something from Ford. Reminds me of a Ford Ka. And of course, just like in the XK8, it goes in here. There's no space for the left foot, so start. Put the car into reverse. I'll move the steering wheel. Oh, so steering wheel moves for tilt, but no reach. So, rear view mirror, there we go. Luckily this was from a time when rearward visibility was very, very good. Unfortunately, modern cars, due to aero, don't have good visibility, but this one does. So into drive, very, very heavy steering, and off we go. So general maneuverability, I'd say the steering wheel just feels a bit too light. To me there is just too much movement with the wheel. But on the flip side, at least I can see out the car very, very well. It's a bit busy here in Patchway, specifically Cribbs Causeway. But that being said, it rides very smoothly. There's lots of travel on the brake. And judging by the way the steering feels, I'm guessing this uses the old-fashioned recirculating ball. Feels weird not having a footrest. Off we go. So from stop-start, it's a bit of a challenge. It's not the end of the world, it's definitely doable. But I think the XK8 does that job a lot better. This particular one is the straight 6, and that being said, it still feels very, very smooth. There is a lot of pickup from this 6-cylinder option. And if I had to buy an XJS, I will most likely be looking into the 4-litre model. And one notable difference with the XJ6 from the XJ16 is that the XJ6 uses 3 valves per cylinder, whereas this one uses 4 valves. It doesn't feel like the kind of car I want to rush in. It's the kind of car you want to take your time when moving. The actual steering rim itself does feel very, very thin. It took an entire turn of the wheel to rotate 90 degrees. And that's a dead end, so let's reverse. A bit stiff, it's not the smoothest gear selector. Overall, the XK8's gear selector does feel a lot lighter. And of course this car has no parking sensor, so that'll do. Despite being an NREG 1995 car, this car does feel a lot older, but on the flip side, that could be part of its appeal. So you're getting a 70s car from the 90s, with the odd 1 or 2 mod cons, of course, which the earlier cars would have lacked. Here we go. It does make a nice noise once you put your foot down. So big roundabout maneuverability, I have no issues at all. It's only a bit of a handful when you go onto the mini roundabouts. And we're at a red light. Taking it onto another dual carriageway, so let's see what it's like on the dual carriageway. What is it like on Sport? Let's do a U-turn here. Of course the car feels a lot more eager to accelerate. Once again, it does feel very loose on the roundabout. Foot down. You can have fun in this car when you put your foot down in Sport, and it does feel more eager to make progress. But overall, this is definitely a Grand Tourer, and it's definitely not pretending to be a sports car at all. One last thing left to check. Let's take it into that retail park over there. Here comes a speed bump. Does seem to rattle a bit more, but again, that's just the appeal of this car, and you sort of know what you're getting into. Here comes another speed bump. It still copes with it, and it doesn't ride too harshly over them. Here comes another one. yeah, it's not too bad. So yeah, overall, I'd say if you're dailying this car, it's probably not advisable. I'd probably not advise dailying this car, but it definitely makes a good choice if you want something that's classic but still has sufficient mod cons, especially in this Series 3 car. But if you're expecting a 90s car, you might be in for a shock. It's much closer to the 70s and the 80s. But that being said, it gives you an option to have a 70s style classic car made in the 90s. So let's head back to the car park and finalize this video. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching me try out this Jaguar XJS. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you are new, ring the bell to stay up to speed, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.